Hi everyone, and welcome to the next episode of Pyjama Talks. And today we have three hosts here. Me, your first host, Evgeny Kot from Wrike. My second host, and you probably know him, Anton Danilov, also from Wrike, Director of Product Management. Hi, Anton.
Hi, everyone.
And our third host, Gosia Gulgowska-Kowalska, from Head of Product of Data Center in Atlassian. Hi,
Hello,
Gosia.
everyone. Great to be here with you.
Obviously, we would like to talk today about product, about management, about many interesting topics. And Gosia, maybe you can start. So you are head of product of data center at Atlassian. What does it mean? What do you do?
I've been with Atlassian for almost 5 years now. I've started as a lead product manager for Jira. Jira as a product is available in two versions. Our cloud version, which is hosted by Atlassian, and our data center version that is hosted by customers. And in our data center portfolio, there is much more than just Jira. There is Confluence, Bitbucket, Bamboo, Crowd. So we have a whole portfolio of products that can be hosted by our customers, and I'm responsible for the success of these products in the data center product line.
Anton, what do you think about this on-premise installation? On one hand, it's really convenient for customers, right? But on the other hand, you don't have, there are a lot of troubles with that. Maybe, I don't know, because Wrike doesn't have this on-premise data center installation, right?
This is obviously something that a more traditional organization, a more kind of organization rooted in very deep security kind of requirements would probably require, right? But at the same time, I think that we all understand that organizations now tend to try to cut costs, right? And this is a massive trend where the cost of operation goes down while return of investment goes up. Because of that, this is partly the reason for that, right? And then recreating your own cloud or building your own cloud of applications or your own intranet, how that was called 20 years ago probably, would be on one hand seemingly very secure, but at the same time it's going to be expensive. But then there's this question of seemingly, right? Because when Atlassian engineers or Wrike engineers or any other respectable company engineers will try to kind of make the product secure, they will work on this one data center or several data centers, but they will be focused on making this a really, really fortified service. But then you can imagine that an organization such as a bank is security minded, but they're not a software as a service provider who's as qualified, right? And that makes it less secure. And surprisingly, an on-premise installation sometimes is less secure than a cloud installation. So that's what I think, and I think that this is the translation of the global trend over the last kind of 10 years probably.
This is also where we are heading as Atlassian. We also invest heavily in cloud products. Where data center installations fit is with some of our longest tenured customers who started their journey with server deployments like several years back. And they grew to the size that is sometimes hard to imagine. Like some of our customers are incredibly large. And at this scale, any change is extremely costly. So to your point, Anton, like it's costly to keep data center installations, but it's similarly costly to move on and transition onto cloud, to migrate and to transition to cloud deployments. But many enterprise customers are on this journey, and we're supporting them on this journey. Cloud is where Atlassian sees its future as an organization as well, similar to many other players on this market. Still, data center remains an important offer in our portfolio, mostly because of, to your point, because of the customers who are embedded in more of a traditional way of running things, and also customers who just find it hard to start this journey and transition over to cloud.
Do you take a role in those transition projects where organizations that are large and are traditionally rooted in the data center type of environments, when they migrate to the cloud, does your team play a role in that, and how do you handle that?
This is an extremely complex process. Like any transformation at the enterprise scale is touches upon multiple teams, multiple touch points with the organization, both on the customer side and on our side. From the product perspective, what we do and how we enable customers, how we make sure that customers do start this transformation and start migrating over to cloud is through facilitating the very process of migration. So we have teams that are focused on migration tooling. So tooling is one, like making sure that data center customers can easily move their data between one deployment and another. So we invest in tooling. That's a significant investment on our side. But we also make sure that customers can operate effectively throughout the migration process. Enterprises are huge and complex. So it's not like moving, when you think about moving houses, you can move one house within a day, but think about moving the whole office, the whole building. It's a huge process. You move some stuff first, you leave some stuff behind, you get ready, like you clean up the stuff that you moved. So going through these stages and making sure that companies remain operational throughout the journey. So it's not like, okay, we'll stop working for 2 months as we migrate our stuff from data center to cloud. No, that's not the case. Like customers have to remain operational. So that's the kind of investment that we're doing from product perspective, making sure that throughout the journey, cloud installations and data center installations work together, right? Like they can communicate. There is the right level of integrations, the migration process, as I've mentioned. So that's how we get involved from the product perspective. And there is obviously the whole engine of support, enablement, customer success. So that's a different layer that we put on top.
You have enterprise clients, right? And they have their own demands, and they have, some features that they want. And you have other clients, like rest of the market, and probably they don't know what they want and how to combine these things. So you're not creating a product only for this specific, even though really a large customer, but still don't mess with the market. So how to combine all these things? And probably if you have data center installations, you have a huge legacy tail, because some customers, they sit on like really pretty old features and versions of product.
It's easy to fall down into a trap of like serving particular customers and solving particular problems. This big enterprise comes in, so let's respond to their request and build this feature. As a product organization, we are not doing it. Like we always look at the broad scope of what are our focus areas and where are we taking the product forward. The fact that requirements come in and like hit us is normal. That always is going to happen, and this is the product reality. It just becomes more challenging when you talk to guys who pay you millions of dollars, right? Like it's just a more difficult conversation. But managing this expectation is super important. And how we do it in Atlassian is always through openness and transparency. Open company, no bullshit is one of our values, and that's something that customers know about and customers appreciate. So customers who use Atlassian tools, they know our values and they know that they can expect transparency from us. And this transparency is visible through initiatives like public roadmaps. So what we do, we openly talk about what we are going to build and what we are not going to build. And it's not in 6 months from now. We talk about quarters, years ahead, because that's how enterprises have to plan their future. We know that cloud is the best engine to deliver innovation. And that's how we're talking about cloud to our customers. Like, cloud is where customers can get the latest innovation from Atlassian, the most recent products. This happens in cloud. Data center is about security and scale. So your expectation as a customer, if you expect security, if you need to support huge scale, then data center is a deployment for you. If you expect innovation, you should go down the cloud path, and we make it easier for you.
Like in some teams, we have engineering culture and product culture, and sometimes, if, for example, engineers are way stronger than product managers, not literally, but still, some teams, they are more focused on engineering goals, topics, and this is kind of like engineering vision. And probably, for example, engineers, they say, okay, data centers and on-premise installation, this is old, and I would like to develop something in cloud. And there are product vision, product goals, and product manager, goals again. So how to balance them, and is it such thing like cats versus dogs, product managers versus engineers? And I don't know how to combine these things together. Anton, what do you think?
I wouldn't say that a team where one particular side of the team is much stronger than any other is a healthy environment, because that's just not going to work healthily, right? So, here's what I mean. I mean that if a product manager is much stronger in terms of the opinion and voicing, and it's not, of course, and it's not physical strength or something else, but it's just his kind of, I don't know, how his weight in the organization is so much more, then he would not consider those things that go beyond or sideways from his agenda, right? And then if that happens, then yes, we can get some weird effects, such as, for example, we can get a product that earns money in the short run, but then in the long run, it's gonna accumulate so much debt that is going to slow down, is going to be very hard to operate, is going to be very slow to improve any further. And then this same product manager will then have a problem, right? Will then have a problem because he will not be able to achieve his goals. But then vice versa, if engineering culture is so much stronger than the product management culture, and we see that so many times in some organizations, then what happens is that product goals are not achieved, and then the financials are not very good, and then the customers are not very happy, but then the product is very architecturally solid and all of that is good, but then at the end of the day it doesn't sell, or it doesn't really achieve its business financial goals, and then it goes belly up, right? So that can happen. When people are in it for the long run, then they can have a conversation about it. Because you can imagine that if a product manager just came here to work for a year or two and then leave, then he's not going to be worried about what's going to happen in like 5 years, right? And then vice versa, same thing happens with engineering. And then when people are here for the long run, when they know that they're going to be having this conversation now, in 1 year, in 3 years probably, maybe in the other role, but they will still have the same product. They will be interested in both improving it short term and long term. They'll be interested in achieving business goals, but then at the same time, like in cleaning up their legacy or rebuilding some of the functional or technological foundations, stuff like that. So I don't know. Do that make sense, Gosia? What's your experience?
When I joined Atlassian, I was one of the very first product managers in the organization, and the organization was heavily biased towards engineering. Like, we had extremely strong engineers. They were solving some big problems, like really gnarly problems for Jira. Customers were going through significant pain with their data center clusters simply not working, and there was a significant team. I came into the team, and I said to there were 2 product managers back then in the organization, and I asked questions like, okay, there are 20 engineers locked in this room to the right. What do they do? And apparently, like, engineers were working on something incredibly interesting from the engineering perspective, but there was very little value for customers coming from this effort. And the group of engineers was like, come on, like, these engineers can focus on actual, like, resolving actual customer pains. And one very simple thing that we did as the first the stage of the evolution that the team had to go through was bringing product managers closer to engineering teams, like, just sit in the same room. Obviously, it's not possible today, not physically, but it's still possible, like, to be close, to be interested, to understand what engineers are working on, and just spend time together, right? So I personally also pay a lot of attention to my relationship with my engineering partner.
I remember when we were discussing with some teams, like, why are we doing this or the other thing, and then trying to build those connections with top down from the company goals and the product goals, and then OKRs and specific KRs, which are and have to be customer outcomes, right? And then when we're looking into the customer outcomes, when you understand that there's very little customer outcome, this is where we understand that we have, like, over engineering. But at the same time, it's fantastically, we have a completely opposite situation sometimes, where we understand that we have to do something which is very technical, which is very kind of like a platform for some sort of a framework or whatever. But we understand that this thing in itself is not something that will drive a customer outcome. But then we need that for engineering to be able to be operational, to be quick enough, to be flexible enough and stuff like that, right? So, and there's this very tight balance. And I agree that the engineering partnership is probably key here in finding the balance, right? It's an interesting dynamics to build, and it's an interesting dynamics to see evolving. But I have a question to you, Gosia. Obviously, when you have those teams, it's a multipolar conversation. How do you make it so that this is not a battle or a struggle? So
you don't get stuck, right? Like, the more voices in the room,
you will get stuck. Yes,
it is about building relationships and getting clarity. But what we do, we have quite clear roles and responsibilities. So sometimes these roles and responsibilities, like, just kick in naturally, and with some teams you don't need, like, to formalize it and build a big process around it. In some teams, you need to put some framework and have a meeting about roles and responsibilities to clarify, okay, who is making technical decisions? Who is making, like, prioritization? Like, some stuff is obvious, like prioritization calls are for product managers, like engineers decide on technical implementation. But sometimes in more nuanced situation, you really need to go deeper and have a precise conversation about roles and responsibilities. But most importantly, how we don't get stuck is being clear about the goals and bringing the goals into, like, whenever we get stuck and the conversation goes in circles and we see that there is, for one reason or another, we're not moving forward, we bring in the goals and ask ourselves, yet again, a very important question. What do we want to do here?
By the way, there is one framework for anyone who's interested. You can Google it, called RACI, RACI. So it is really convenient defining roles and who is in charge of what, responsible, accountable, and other stuff. So if you're interested, it is really nice. We use it a lot.
What Gosia's been talking about is actually, so how does it work in reality, right? So how do you take the metrics and for roles and responsibilities, how do you apply it? Because in different orgs and different teams, you will see different applications of the same metrics, right? And different kind of conversations spanning from the same metrics discussion. And I think that one of the things that comes really handy is how well can we define the meaning of those words, right? So what does accountable really mean? And what's the difference between the accountable and responsible? And that is a huge difference. And the way we understand that and the way we understand the actual responsibility, the actual kind of line item of that metrics is also crucial. Because from what I found over the years, I've seen that the better we're putting things in words, the better we're kind of formulating that, the better we're wording things, the better we can explain things to others. And I think that this is kind of key here, because when we're talking about those very thin lines that we draw between the areas of responsibility, those are actually our professional boundaries, right? And then the better the boundaries, the better the relationship. And we know that from psychology, that's just the fact.
We have to enable the teams. We have to trust the teams, and that's very much about human relationships. You have to build trust. You have to empower people that you work with to feel capability and capacity to make the right calls that then move the product forward, right? So there is a lot. And maybe I'm saying this because I'm a psychologist by education, and I feel, and it's again, I think my story is interesting from where my background is and what I do. I always felt that lack of technical background is my limitation. It's one of my limitations. I don't have a technical background. I've been working with software companies for over 15 years now, and somehow I've been successful. And I keep asking myself a question: how the hell was I successful? Like, I don't know what these Java people are talking about. I don't know about like all these frameworks and all the newest technology, but somehow.
But you need to.
Exactly. Like, it's so much about relationships and focusing on enabling teams. I feel like my background is helping me a lot the further I progress in my career.
Talking about product management, how to grow and how to become a product manager, great product management manager. What skills should you have? Okay, we see that you not obviously should have engineering background, but what should you have and how to develop in this area?
You have to want to learn, operate in different contexts. And this is critical. Like, very early days for product manager is about just gathering these experiences. So there is a lot of, I know a few cases of people who started their product manager career and they got stuck in one place. And it actually slowed them down, even though theoretically they moved into like pretty like significant position in small organizations, small startup, and then you are a product manager, and then suddenly you become head of product for a very small product, but you are a head of product. And this actually limits your growth, because you've just been through one experience. You're not really head of product, like from you have the title, but you haven't been through the experiences. So as a young product manager, expose yourself at different experiences.
It's very important not only to be able to say, okay, this is the customer problem, this is the solution that we're doing with the product, fine, go, right? So it's very tactical, it's very low level. And essentially, if you have a nail and you have to kind of fix something to the wood, then yes, the solution is take a hammer, nail it down, right? But it's not the product process that we're looking for, right? We're looking for something that builds systems, that builds kind of long-term solutions. And then this is where you have to be able to go through something that can be called levels of abstraction. You have to be able to think about a customer en masse, a customer as a mass of people, as a population, as a society, right? It's not an individual person, it's a society, and it follows some rules. There's the society behavior, there's the society laws. You have to understand how all that works. And it's kind of a hive mind. It's not an individual person. And then you have to be able to go down to narrowing down to specific groups of people, specific kind of demographies or populations, and then narrow down to teams, and then organizations, and finally to a particular person. And you should be able to kind of traverse through that very easily. You have to say, okay, I understand that I'm building a product for an average middle-aged young professional that's doing this or that or that. but then you should be able to say that I'm working for a population of large cities, and then you should be able to say that I'm working for, I don't know, European and American civilization in general, and that's where all the people who are using our product come from, because it's never going to be a middle-aged young professional, right? It's always going to be this, and then a mom of two will join them, and right, and some other people are going to be joining. You cannot look at your product from one demographic. You should be able to kind of look at different levels.
Product managers are there to drive business, right? At the end of the day, we want business to be successful, but we don't want business to be successful and customers pay the price for it. To your earlier point, Anton, like if you only focus on short-term goals and you just squeeze the lemon, and then it's not building products. It's just making. It's just about generating revenue. This is not what product managers are there. We are focused on building something that builds this long-term customer success, and there has to be a human story behind any product investment. So finding the right balance, this makes the product management work both hard and exciting. We have to be about money, but we also have to be about emotions and just the human element of who is using our products, how successful they are, what emotions it triggers in our users.
For me, as a young product manager, one thing that I should do right now to be successful as a product manager and to become head of product or director of product or VP of product.
How we think about product management in Atlassian is we think about two paths for any product manager. There is a path of individual contributor. You can continue to be an individual contributor and be a successful, thriving product manager as long as you wish to. And then there is the second path, which is management path. And that's where you get to head of product, director of product. You cannot be here and there at the same time.
It's impossible to make it short if you want to kind of give advice on this, at least, especially if we're talking about things that you can do right now. But the one thing you can do right now is you can go to your manager and ask them what they're doing right now, what is their biggest problem right now, and ask them how you can help. And so if you're taking the work of your off the shoulders of your manager and you're helping him to kind of get through, you're already doing part of his job, and when he gets promoted, you get the job automatically. So that's one of the advice that was given to me by one of my former managers several companies back. It still works.
Thank you very much. It was a pleasure to have you here. Press the button, press the bell, subscribe, and see you in the next one. Thank you very much.